It's not going to end. No need to be afraid. The tsunami's not going to come again for a long time. But other ways of dying are always going to happen, so be careful of those. And in the meantime, while you've still got life, don't waste the time. You don't know when the cancer's coming, when the heart attack's coming, when the bomb's coming, when a safe is going to drop from the sky, or who knows what's going to happen. When you've got life, life is precious. It's a message of Tsunami, how precious life is, because we don't know how much of it we've got left. So don't argue with your husband or wife. You don't know how long you've got left. Be kind to your kids. Kids, be loving and respectful to your parents. You don't know how long you've got them for. That was one lesson I learned from my father's death. He died when I was only 16. One of the things which really hurt me was I never had a chance to say how much I loved him. I was a teenager growing up, and teenagers, that's not what you do to your father, to say how much you love them. And I regretted that. So don't wait. Even as soon as you leave here, or even before, going up to your dad or your mum, say, Mum, I really love you very much. I really care for you. Do it now. Or to your husband, to your wife, don't assume that, you know. Do it. Because you don't know how long you've got left. Life is precious. So be kind. Express your love. Be generous. Do good things. So that when it happens to you, at the most unexpected time, when some tragedy happens and you die, you're ready. You're ready to go. Not because you expect at this time it's going to happen, but you're ready, you've made all the wonderful good karma. You've lived a really good life. You've helped, you've served, you've been kind, you've been generous. That's what I mean by being ready to go. And if you're ready to go, you know that when you die, you can just go to a wonderful place. Nibbana or whatever, who cares, I don't know. But when you're ready to go, you know you've made the best use of your time as a human being. You've cared, you've loved, you've been responsible, you've been generous, you've been pure-hearted. What more can you want in life? For me, the only tragedies I see is when a person dies and they've lived a very selfish life. That's when I feel sad. I think, what a waste of a life. But when someone has been a good person, a kind, generous person, I never feel sad. I think, what a wonderful life that was. I feel like standing up and applauding them when they die. It inspires me when good people die. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you be a good people, because I want to be inspired when I come to your funeral. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajahn Brahm, for that very inspiring talk. I'd like now to pose a few questions to you on areas that perhaps you may not have addressed, or perhaps we have questions that we'd like to follow up with. First of all, it was noted that the animals were not affected by the tsunami. They somehow had the sixth sense to leave the danger before it hit the area. Could you please explain the animal's instinct in this particular situation?
Yes, fascinating, isn't it? The animals tend to know, not just when tsunamis are coming. They know when you've got cancers, when you're sick, the pets, the dogs, little cats. They can sense when things are going on. That's actually why I read in scientific journals they're actually training some dogs to sniff out cancers in human beings. This is not a joke, because the dogs can actually sniff out the cancers before any other medical machine can actually detect them. Not only that, they can actually sense when you're feeling sad. Animals are very sensitive. You know why? If you look at a dog or a cat, it spends most of the day meditating. while you spend most of the day thinking.
I thought they were sleeping.
That's actually... Because one of the reasons, every human being, this is part of meditation, every human being has the ability to be sensitive, to feel what's going on at a very intuitive level. But one of the reasons we've lost that ability, we can regain it at any time, is because we are just thinking so much going on inside of our heads. We haven't got the time to listen to the very faint and subtle signals which can actually tell when someone's got a cancer or when something's wrong. I certainly know as a monk, having meditated a lot, you get very, very sensitive. And sometimes you can feel that something's wrong. And it is. That something's happening. And it is. I think if I was in that tsunami, I'd have probably known that something was happening. I'd have been with the dogs and the cats and the elephants running up the hill. Because you do. When you're sensitive, when you calm the mind down, make it more peaceful, not have this inner conversation going on so much, which drowns out all these subtle signals from the world, you would know what's going on, and you'd be able to take evasive action. So I think that's what's happening, because the animals, because they don't think so much, they don't worry so much, they haven't got such busy minds. I think that's one of the reasons why they're more sensitive.
Although you had said that, don't blame it on karma, but on the other hand, if somebody was scheduled to go to one of these places and last minute change his mind or cancel his flight or cancel his plans, wouldn't that be also karma that, it wasn't his time up yet to die?
The Buddha actually said not everything is karma, because sometimes it's just chance as well. That's also because of all the people who actually go and make a booking, sometimes for other reasons you don't go on that booking, and no tsunami hits. It's just sometimes it's just chance, the luck of the draw. So not everything is karma. Some things though are karma. And that's actually the strange thing, that you can't know exactly what is karma, what isn't karma. Mistakes happen. Didn't I tell that story the last time I was here about the man who was a single person and got a makeover?
Might want to tell it again.
Okay, this is one of the stories. There was this gentleman in Australia. He was about 30, 35, and he couldn't find a partner. If he wanted to get married, but he would get a girlfriend maybe for a few days and then she'd dump him. And so he asked his best friend, he said, look, what's wrong with me? Why can't I find a partner in life? And so his best friend, now listen, you should look at yourself in the mirror. Look at your hairstyle, look at the clothes you wear. You've even got bad breath. Now, what girl would actually want to marry you when you're like this? What you should do, give yourself a proper makeover. Spend some money sharpening your looks. Get a psychologist, give you a proper attitude, and then you can go and find a girl. And so actually he took his best friend's advice. He went to an expensive dentist, got all his teeth nicely polished white and straightened. He went to a motivational psychologist, cost thousands of dollars. He could have come to me for half the price. And got a really positive attitude, learned how to dance in a dance studio. And then when he was ready, he got this really expensive hairstyle and a really sharp suit. Cost a fortune. And he was ready to go out for the first time. So he was going to one of these singles bars, and he really looked sharp. Good hairstyle, positive attitude, great teeth. And just outside the singles bar, he was hit by a truck and killed. And when he got to heaven, he was so angry. He was really upset. When he saw God, he said, you didn't even give me a chance, not even one night. I went through all this pain, all this expense, sharpening up my image, getting a good attitude, straightening my teeth, and I didn't even have one night. Why did you do this? And God looked at him and said, I'm terribly sorry, you made a mistake. We didn't recognize you. They're like karma sometimes makes mistakes.
Just when you thought the story was going to be a true one, we made a mistake. Ajahn Brahm, you mentioned about ghosts, and there was an article in the paper about Phuket being full of ghosts, especially foreign ghosts. I'm going to Phuket tomorrow. Do you have any advice to people who are not monks and nuns like yourself, and what do we do with these ghosts when we see them?
Okay. One of the problems with Phuket at the moment is because there's so many foreigners died, only the Thai monks have done the ceremonies, and the Westerners can't understand what's going on. They can't speak Thai. So I think they need a Western monk to go and talk to them.
We'll have to invite you over.
So now, look, I mentioned this before, that ghosts aren't dangerous. Because, ghosts are just beings who live in this world, and we should actually say, may all beings be happy and well. We should have compassion to ghosts, not be afraid of them. They can't harm you at all. I was a member of the Psychic Research Society in London at the time they had their 100th anniversary, which was in 1970, I think. And they produced all these wonderful papers, 100 years of research into ghosts. And what they found was never once has a ghost ever harmed anybody. And one of my close friends, still a close friend, the last time I was in England, I had lunch with him, a fellow called Tony Cornell. At the time, he was head of the Ghost Hunting Council of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. He had it on his business card. It was a great business card to actually pass out to a person. And ever since, whenever I see in a newspaper there's some haunting in England, he is the expert which the newspapers call in. He is the expert on ghosts in England, and he's a close friend of mine. So I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about ghosts. They can't harm you. They exist. So if ever you see a ghost, what they want, they are confused. They are suffering. They need compassion, not fear. So if a ghost comes, come over here. And just tell them, number one, many of the ghosts, if you see them in Phuket, may not realize they're dead. Number one, tell them, look, you're a ghost now, you're dead. The tsunami happened. Number two, if you can teach them a bit of Dhamma, and it doesn't matter whether they are Christians or whatever, just life is impermanent, you've died. Understand that, accept that, embrace it. Now the next thing to do, remember some of the past good things you've done in your life. If you haven't done them, I'll do some good things for you. I will make merit for you. It doesn't have to be a relation. If that's a ghost who's there, you can make merit for them, and I'm going to give you the merits. And the most important thing, you're compassionate, you're kind towards them. But these are beings who are suffering. You know, you're spending a lot of money sending over to the people who are suffering because they're still alive and they're grieving for people they've lost, or because they've lost all of their property and possessions. Don't be one-sided in your charity. Think of those people who have died as well. Don't leave them out. And to help them, share merits and give compassion. Be kind to the, 200,000 people who have died. So if you go to Phuket and the ghost comes to you, be kind to them.
I'll let you know how many I've seen and talked to after I come back. When we were in Sri Lanka, from the 7th to the 11th of February, there was a clear concern from the people there that the Christians might be coming to do mass conversion. And I think this is probably to do with the fact that in the history, in 1542, the Portuguese, when they took over the rule of Sri Lanka, damaged or destroyed a lot of the statues, the temples. And I think that fear is still very much in the minds of the people, that the Christians might take this opportunity to come in and create a lot of fear in the people and convert them. What's your view on that, Ajahn Brahm?
Yeah. Well, I think my view there are, of all religions, there's a good part to it and a stupid part to it. And people who just think at this particular time when people are already suffering, when there's so much destruction. If you want to come and convert somebody, when that is really stupid, that's very bad karma. And I think that's a silly thing to do. However, because there are some silly people in some religions, I think it's really the job of the government is to lay down the law there. Look, no conversions. Do that later on if you like, but not now. Now's a time when people need help, not conversions. So no Bibles, no Tripitakas, no Qurans, please. Let's just actually give our hearts, give kindness. I think, maybe some law legislation. There'll be laws and legislation there. And if they catch anybody trying to, abuse, it's like I read that there were some people in Sri Lanka, they were stealing the coffins, stealing the bodies from the mortuary and actually selling them to the loved ones, making money out of such a disaster. And I thought that's just so ghoulish, so gross. They even looking at going into mortuaries, pretending that they were relations, looking for their loved ones, and taking wallets, taking credit cards, rings off the deceased people, and putting them in their pockets for their wealth. And I thought that's really sick. And that's just as sick of people trying to steal converts at such a time. This is the wrong time for that. This is the wrong time for doing things like that. It's a time just to help, to give, not to convert. And I think if any sort of aid organisation gets caught doing things like that, they should be just sent home straight away and not invited back. And publicised as well, what they're doing. Because most people in Western countries, they'd be sick to the teeth of such organisations. That's a stupid, rotten, selfish, unhelpful thing to do.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the floor? Anyone would have a question that you'd like to ask? Yes, please, Ananda.
Yeah.
You mentioned about releasing those who are dead. What do you chant to do that? How do you make merit for it?
How do you make merit for those people who are dead? I'm going to tell one of my stories, which I shouldn't really tell, but I'm going to tell it, about sort of my own experiences with ghosts. My first year as a monk in Thailand, I went to visit the local ghosts. Out-of-the-body experience. I think I mentioned this once before, I think. So once I mentioned it once, I've done it. So I shouldn't really say such things as a monk, but when I went to go and visit the local ghosts, because this monastery, some of you may know, Wat Banana Chat in Thailand. It's the international monastery, they call it now. Ajahn Chah set it up. It was a brilliant... My teacher, I always sort of raised my hands up to him because he wasn't just wise with Dhamma, he was wise in the world as well. He knew he started getting some Western disciples. He knew that those Western disciples will one day become abbots themselves. How can you actually train abbots? So he said, let's get a monastery and send them all over there to learn on the job. So he got this piece of land very close to his monastery, and he sent the Western monks there. You go there by yourself, you learn how to run a monastery. And he was close by if anything went wrong, which it often did. My teacher Ajahn Chah was close by to come and sort things out. That's how we learned. So this monastery where we started was the local cremation ground. In other words, all the villagers around, when somebody died, they'd take them to this forest, and that's where they would be cremated, that's where they'd be burnt. So there's cremations there, usually about once a week or once a fortnight. So there's heaps of ghosts there. So early on in my monk life, I went to go and visit the ghosts. And of course, as soon as I went up to them, they were the ones which were scared. Ah, you can see us. Now, this is a true story, this is not a joke. That's what I said. So, yeah, of course I can, come over. And, we just had a chat. I talked to them about what it's like to be a ghost. And, in this forest over there. And of course, once, you've got that contact there, you could really be caring and help them. And basically, it was actually the hungry ghosts. What they wanted most of all was food. And so I remember I took a list, actually, what they wanted. This makes Thai people laugh, because the top of the list was chili sauce. And just these little ghosts are like little kids, in a sense, just like ordinary human beings, just like you. Just with your likes and dislikes, with little fears and your likes and dislikes, just ordinary beings. They didn't have any malice in them. They weren't bad people. They just happened to get stuck in that little little realm in the forest. That's all that ghosts are. So once you actually understand what ghosts are, they're just ordinary little beings, just like little kittens or little cats or dogs which have got no home, which are really hungry. If you see like a kitten or a cat and a little dog who's like hasn't got anything to eat, you just want to give something to them. That's actually what you feel with ghosts. They're hungry, they're lonely, they're afraid. So just giving loving kindness, giving acceptance. Don't be afraid. They can't harm you, but you can really help them. So if they come, say, coming in, what can I do for you? And just, as far as languages, that was a joke about talking in Thai, because when you actually get like devas or ghosts, you speak language of the mind. So in other words, you may be thinking in English, but they hear it in Thai.
Thank you. Any other questions from the floor?
Yeah, so be kind.
Yes, Susan?
Yeah. Oh no, he's saying it's an old saying in Buddhism, the last moment is very important, just before you die. It's yes and no, but don't overemphasize that teaching, because the last moment is the sum total of all you've ever thought before, in that sense. It just sort of like a summing up of your life. And it doesn't matter, it's important, but it's not crucial. In other words, you have a bad last moment, but you can catch you before you go to the new birth and give you a nice, good moment afterwards. So it's not that important. But remember what would be happening. The process of death is not that different than when you're alive. The consciousness going on. Many people have had out-of-the-body experiences. When they're out of the body, they don't really feel they're dead. Sometimes they think, oh, I'm dead, but they're not really dead. They're just out of the body, they come back again afterwards. So the process of life and death, it's not such a sharp distinction between being alive and being dead. And because of that, because the stream of consciousness flows almost seamlessly over that boundary, sometimes it feels the same. But, suddenly you're washed up, after the tsunami, you get up, but, you're dead. It's not your real body, that's gone. But you feel it's your real body. It feels like the real body. And you're just wandering around, and your state of consciousness is not all that clear sometimes. Because of the trauma there, you can be almost like being a daze. Like some people who are in comas, or after a trauma you don't know what's going on. Sometimes that's what happens, but that lasts much longer for the ghosts. So sometimes they need a bit of a wake-up. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead. What time do they realize that they're dead? It needs some reflection, some cause, so they can actually, sometimes they see their body. If it's like a motor car accident, if you see your body lying down there on the ground all broken, my God, that's me, I'm dead. That might be enough. Or sometimes it may be seeing your loved ones crying. Even your funeral happening, you realize, my goodness, that's me in there. So there's many triggers. Obviously, that if you're more mindful, more alert, which often happens if you die more slowly, say in a cancer or out of old age, you're preparing your death, you know it's going to happen, you're ready for it, it's more likely that you'll know, yeah, I'm dead. Especially if you're mindful, you meditate, it's obviously very clear, the whole process, because you know exactly what happens and how it happens, and you're ready for it, you see every moment of it. But for in a sudden calamity like that, everything happens so fast, sometimes it's complete confusion, you don't know what's happening, and you don't know what happens afterwards. I don't know if any of you have ever been in an accident, sometimes after the car rolls over. Am I dead? Am I alive? Sometimes you don't know. But afterwards, you think, oh, I am still alive. Is that what happens? There's a question in the back, over there. Yeah. You, I think the question you're saying is that because of this such an endless cycle of birth and death, that people actually get killed in tsunamis, they get reborn again, they die again. So it would be better to have like Nibbana as quickly as possible. Of course it would be. That's why I teach like this. But for most people, actually we want to have another try. Even though, we should really know, this is what I said, when you get a human birth, you know you can die at any time. But people say, they're blind to that. They think, oh no, other people die but not me. It's like when you get married. You get married and you think, oh, I'm going to be happy ever after. How many marriages do you actually go to? Other people's marriages, oh, don't they look in love? Isn't it sweet? Isn't it wonderful? They're going to live such a happy life together. You've got to get real. Like a lot of marriages, they don't work. Some marriages, they take a lot of effort to make them work. So, you should actually, as a monk, this is actually why I teach like this at marriage ceremonies, to tell people, look, this is what you're getting into. Be real about this. It's not just, you're going to walk off into the sunset and be happy ever after. It takes work. So be prepared for suffering. If you're prepared for suffering, then actually you'll probably be able to work with it and actually not allow it to ruin your marriage, to learn from it. And like the truckload have done, you can actually make a beautiful life together. As long as you know what's involved from the beginning. In life, if you take a human life, if you know what's involved from the very start, you're going to get old, you're going to get sick, you're going to die. This is what life is all about. There's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of happiness as well. It's not all suffering, as you know, there's a lot of joy and happiness in life, but know that you're going to have both. Be prepared so you can actually learn from this. The reason why many people, there's this story which I remember Ajahn Sumedho told. He went back to visit his hometown just after 10 years as a monk or something, and he met one of his old school friends, a girl. And as soon as he met her, she said, oh, great, you've come here. I'm going to get married. Come to my marriage. So he accepted an invitation to go to his old school friend's marriage. The thing was, it was her 7th marriage. And he asked her, what goes on? I mean, you're not that old. Why are you getting married for the 7th time? And she was very honest. She said, listen, I love the romance, the courtship, going out together and falling in love. I love the planning for the marriage. And the ceremony itself is so wonderful. It's what happens afterwards I don't like. So after I get married, I stop it, get divorced, and I start all over again. I can respect a lady like that. At least she's honest. It's true, isn't it? Like the idea of falling in love, courting, going out together, finding out about each other and planning a marriage, and the marriage ceremony, isn't that wonderful? What happens afterwards, that's the trouble. But the point is that they all go together. So if we only know what we're actually getting involved in from the start, then we're wise. So, I tell my monks, look, when you become a monk, it's not just going to be sitting in your hut all day having a wonderful time. You're going to have times when the last thing you want to do is be a monk. And you just want to run away. That will happen to you. But, if you know that's going to happen, you be prepared for it. It means you can actually work with it. And you'll probably be able to go through those times and become a wonderful person as a result. So understand this is what life is. So if you don't like the deal, then don't buy the model. When you die, you don't want to have that growing up, falling in love, getting married, being subject to sickness or death, sometimes rich, sometimes poor, sometimes the problems, the worries, the concern. If you don't want that, don't get reborn. The problem is that we want it again. Just like that lady, 6 times, 7 times married. We want it again because all we really think about is being young, the best times of our life, maybe 16 to 30 or 40. That's the part we like. But we don't really think that you're going to soon get old. You're going to get sick and you're going to die. Each one of you. Dying is not pleasant usually. You've seen other people in hospitals being very sick. That's going to happen to every one of you sitting here. It's part of the contract. It's in the small print. Next time, read that small print.
Thank you, Ajahn Brahm. And perhaps the last question. Do you see any problems in reconciling science with Buddhism?
Do I see any promise in reconciling science with Buddhism? Yes, great science, because at least science is rational and it just sweeps away a lot of the rubbish which surrounds religion. Like religion is this beautiful tree, but it's got all these dead branches and dead wood on it, which actually sometimes strangles the real beauty and truth of religion. And there's too many people in our world, they just want to cut down the whole tree and destroy all of religion. And it's true that sometimes there's a lot of dead wood there. That stuff needs to be taken away. And one of the best ways of taking it away is with science. Because at least science is rational. It follows rules of evidence. So this is why when you get something like rebirth or reincarnation, I stand up and say that is a scientific fact. Science has proved that as much as anybody else, as any other fact of life. I always quote Professor Ian Stevenson. He was a doctor of medicine, first of all in his career. He was so good, he became a teacher at medical school. He decided to branch out into clinical psychiatry as an MD first of all, then as a clinical psychiatrist. Then he taught psychiatry in the University of West Virginia, and then looking for another field to investigate. Some of his people he was counselling recall past lives. That became his research subject for the rest of his life. I don't know how many years he researched this, but the point was he was a professor, a lecturer, a doctor before he even started on this. He had all the scientific credentials. And so he knew how to do research. And he applied scientific method to the investigation of past life memories. And he's written heaps of books. And they're incredibly well researched. And as I mentioned to the reporter, one of the books he wrote, I was impressed. He wrote it while he was a visiting professor at Magdalen College in Oxford. It's a top university. And universities like Oxford, they don't allow crackpot professors to come into their faculty. This was a scientist. And he did that research. And it proved any rational person reading his research has to agree rebirth is a fact. There's no doubt about that. Of course, some people have got philosophical objections. It can't be true because it says in my book it's not. It can't be true because I don't want it to be true. All of those religions, what you want to be true or not, that has to be pushed aside. You have to follow the facts. And the facts say reincarnation happens. It is true. It will happen to you. So that's where science is very useful, because it stops all the arguments. So this is a fact. Accept it. And if people would only understand that much, we would live in a much, much more caring world. So this is one of my core celebs. I want people to actually to understand reincarnation or rebirth more and more and more and more. It's not against Christianity, because Christianity began with reincarnation. It was part of the original creed. So it's not going to destroy Christianity. It's not going to destroy Islam or Judaism. It's part of Hinduism already. What it's going to do is going to make people more responsible for this earth. If you know that you are going to come back onto this planet, then you've got to take better care of our environment, because you're going to have to come back. If this place is polluted, you're going to have to breathe that air. We've got to take better care of our elderly people, because they're going to come back as our children. This is the reason why children misbehave, because you never took care of them when they were old. And you can get reborn not just as a Singaporean, you can get reborn as a Malaysian, as an Indonesian, as an Australian, as an American. Jews can get reborn as Palestinians, Palestinians as Israelis. Now it means that we really have to look after each other. You can't destroy another person's country, because you might get reborn there in the next life. Do you understand what I'm saying here? That this actually evens us out. It means we literally are one family. Literally. This is not metaphorically. We are one family. So we have to look after each other. No exceptions. I don't care if you're an Arab, if you're an Inuit, if you're a US citizen, no matter where you come from. You are my family. So I can get reborn into your family any time. I've probably been reborn in your family before. That's why I must care. So that's actually one answer there, where science will prove reincarnation will make a much better world. So that's just one question. I could go on all day with science and religion, but that's enough for now.
Thank you very much, Ajahn Brahm. Could we put our hands together? Before we close tonight's forum proper, when I will request Ajahn Brahm's blessings, could you please bear with me with some announcements? There's going to be a memorial service at Mangala Vihara this Saturday, which is near the Eunos MRT station at 6:30 p.m. So this Saturday for the tsunami victims, if you'd like to join the service. We have a Buddhist Fellowship Youth Group, and they will be organizing a Buddhist Youth Conference, which will be held 18th and 19th of June. So if you're interested, please let us have your name and contact number. You can either send it to our Fellowship Center or just give us a call. They also meet every Sunday at 1:30. So if you're feeling youthful, please come and join this group. We will be making another trip to Sri Lanka from the 11th to the 15th of February to do the follow-up work in aid of the tsunami victims. This is going to be a long-haul rehabilitation program, so it doesn't start and finish with one trip. And we're very fortunate, and perhaps this is the tsunami of compassion that Ajahn Brahm is contributing to, because he will be going to Sri Lanka as well to be giving some Dharma talks. And I was told by his Sri Lankan disciple that the plan was that they were going to invite Ajahn Brahm to Sri Lanka in about 2 years' time. So it looks like the tsunami has brought them a good fortune or Dhamma being delivered ahead of time. I'd like to announce that there are some Buddha statues that we have specially ordered from Thailand with a prayer in the back of it, and also it's specially commissioned by the Buddhist Fellowship. It's a statue of a replica of the statue in the Sarnath Museum. And it's being sold at $200, and this is going towards the Buddhist Fellowship premise relocation, so we hope that you also give it support. We do have CDs of the last set of talks by Ajahn Brahm that was given here in Buddhist Lodge. If you recall, there were 3 talks. The first one was the meditation to power your mind, and there were 2 others, which I can't remember. But they're all there. And please pick up a brochure on the services that we're offering for free through Brahma Education Center on legal advisory, counseling, family counseling, or career counseling. And we'd also like to invite you to be a member. So if you're not a member yet, for you to find out of such activities and events coming up. If you're a member, at least you will get your information much more quickly and more dependably. However, if you are a member and you haven't given us your email address, please do so, because whenever we have talks that are being organized in a very short time frame, we'd like to be able to reach you and let you know of the talks through email, which is probably the fastest way. If you'd like to volunteer for the tsunami projects, please also come forward and let us know. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the Buddhist Lodge for having so kindly offered us this place for this event. And Ajahn Brahm's Ajahn Brahm's book on opening the door of your heart, we only have, I think, less than 10 copies left over there. So if you like some, either you could place an order with us or try your luck at Kinokuniya or Times Bookstore. Okay, and with that, just a reminder, there are some cookies for sale, and those proceeds will be to the tsunami victims. So I'd like to now, on behalf of everyone, thank Ajahn Brahm again, and also like to request him to give the blessings in dedication to all the victims of the tsunami and the families, and also to all the people who have supported the victims here. Thank you.
So I'm going to be doing the Idang Me Nyati Nang Hotu. This is, Nyati Nang means that our relations, understanding that each person in this world is our relations, that we've been reborn, born in each other's families over the many cycles of existence, so that when I say this is to my relations, it really means to every sentient being, because they are our brothers and sisters, those people who are still living and those people who are grieving and suffering the result of the tsunami. This is to all beings, not just in tsunami, but other beings who are suffering, which should not be forgotten. All beings who are suffering are intended here. Idang me nyati nang hotu. Please join in. Idang me nyati nang hotu, sukhita hontu yatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu, sukhita hontu yatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu, sukhita hontu yatayo. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, with that, I'd like to thank all of you on behalf of the Buddhist Fellowship for spending your time here and helping to make sense of the tsunami. Thank you and very good night.